Medic 30 to PG Hospital.
PG online, go ahead.
Bringing a gunshot wound, Approximately a 30-year-old male. We got CPR in progress. Shot one time in the right lateral side of the neck. Shot one time in the left midline of the left axillary region. EKG shows PEA. We got CPR, King Airway. All ALS is being done en route. We're trying to get a line as we're en route. ETA, we're about 8 minutes out.
PG copy, thank you.
Yeah, he's got 2 to the leg also.
Oh, man, I am excited to talk to you guys today. I put this image up here. Everyone has their legitimacy banner on the things that they've done in their life, the things that they've done in their career. And I'm going to try so hard not to cry during this presentation because it means so much to me, especially on this stage, especially for all of the entrepreneurs in the room, all the first-time founders, all of the people that are going through, the life cycle of growing a business, because I really feel like I understand what that's like. Right now, I'm the Chief Experience Officer at Pluralsight, and I absolutely love my job. If you don't know who we are or what we do, I would just encourage you guys to really dig in. But the mission or the vision of the company is creating progress through technology to lift the human condition. And behind that theme, we have a really big philosophical belief about opportunity is not equally distributed. And so if you dig into our product, we're the largest developer, IT ops, and creative training library in the world. We have a B2C business and then also a B2B business. But if you really dig deep down inside of who I am, I spent 5 years from 1998 to 2002 in the fire and EMS space in Salt Lake City, Utah, making $7.14 an hour. And there's no way I could have ever been the product leader or the founder or the entrepreneur without those years of experience. There's just no way. And I think I was so much better off by having that experience for a number of reasons. Because one massive life skill that I feel like I collected is empathy. And I just want to show you a couple of images here. I got to experience things like this. This is depression, true loss. As much as one person can try and put themselves in the shoes of someone else's life, experiences, and understanding, I felt like I had this really meaningful opportunity to do it. And my hope is that you will start to see as I go through this presentation some symmetry about how you build a company, and then maybe some paramedicine kind of drizzled in there along the way. And I really want to, when you leave here, as you kind of go through life on your trajectory, that this talk will kind of hit that trajectory a little bit and cause you to really think deeply. Is that fair with you guys? Yeah. Great. So look, the human body, just being candid as a medic, is the most complicated product in the world. When you're in the middle of the call that you just heard, the thing that I find really funny, you guys wouldn't find it funny, but as a former EMT, when you go on all of these calls and you listen to a HEAR report that you just heard, you heard this person's been shot in the neck, they've been shot in the side, and the irony for me, where EMS will kind of giggle, is he gives all of the life-saving things that he's doing to try and save one person's life. And at the very end, and it's not critical to him and to the team that's working on the patient, right, is the person's also been shot twice in the leg. And we kind of giggle. Like really? You kind of forgot that he has 2 bullet holes in his legs too. But in EMS, it's a very common thing. So when you're thinking about trying to save someone's life, I'm really thankful that we have the tools, right, to be able to deploy in the middle of scenes like that. And what you're looking at is an EKG. An EKG machine does a lot of different things. One, it allows me to pace someone's heart rhythm. It allows me to shock a patient. It allows me to understand pulse oximetry, how much oxygen is in someone's blood. And it's a really helpful tool. Within 30 seconds, I have a really clear picture of what's happening with that person. And more specifically, I want you to understand that this morphology of the human heart, right, is really what you start to unlock. You start to understand or have a really close relationship with what you're seeing when it comes through this monitor. So the thing I want to show you here is, which for some of you might be gross, but it's the real life. So what's happening on here is that you have an electrical and a mechanical system. And the left and right atrium are the P wave, the left ventricle and the right ventricle is the QRS complex, and then the T wave is the repolarization of the ventricles. And this is what's happening. So with one heartbeat, you guys, I can actually see what's going on. Does that make sense? And we print out this strip of paper in the back of the ambulance, and on that strip you look for these markers or these indicators called the 6-second strip. And basically I'm counting the waves, and then I'm also looking at the morphology. So if you count those waves, there's 8 of them times 10. That gives me my resting heart rate, beats per minute, right? And then I'm looking at the morphology of the heart to understand how healthy the heart is. And I can show you what bad looks like and what good looks like, but this is really the core or nucleus that a paramedic uses to understand what's occurring in the fire and EMS space. So I'll allow this to build out. The reason why I chose these 4 rhythms is because these are the most common things that you typically see. When you go in a motor vehicle accident or you go into someone's home, you're looking for certain attributes on the monitor. So tachycardia is high heart rate. Bradycardia is low heart rate. Irregular heart rates are usually things called trigeminy or trigeminy or bigeminy. And that just means there's some type of blockage in someone's heart. And then when I arrive on scene, we go through this act of what's called body substance isolation. If you two were with me in the back of the ambulance, we look through the windshield of the ambulance, and the first thing that I do is I look to see if my scene's safe. Can I get home? Can I be with my family? And then the second and third things are the mechanism of injury, which is if you're in a motor vehicle accident, or a nature of illness, which could be somebody's in cardiac arrest or has respiratory distress, right? And then the fourth thing that we deplore is empathy, is how can we relate with this patient and give the best patient care we possibly can. And what I want to propose here is that you guys actually have the opportunity to be the paramedics of your products, you yourself, and your company. And I want to give, hopefully, some really meaty guiding principles. So I want to dive into what I think is the heart of the problem of a lot of organizations, or maybe a lot of things that are really present in the technology space as I see it. And hopefully a lot of this stuff will really land well with you. When I walk into a company, and I've built a lot of companies, I've also walked into 90-year-old businesses and been asked to disrupt them by creating innovation divisions or labs divisions within those companies. And kind of the first thing that I do is I look at the morphology of the current company that I'm in, and then I kind of size up the scene. And when I size up the scene is, one, do I align to the company's mission and vision? And I've already told you the mission and vision of Pluralsight, and we'll kind of echo this one more time. And then do I really understand deeply the problem that we're trying to solve, the product problem that lives within the organization? And the last one is, do you feel like that you're enabled? Do you feel like you have the tools as an individual contributor, as a leader, as a manager, as an entrepreneur to actually control your fate and destiny within the organization? So the use case is Pluralsight that I'd like to use. And then the vision of our company, as I stated, is creating progress through technology that lifts the human condition. So Pluralsight, by the end of the year, will be roughly 1,100 employees. When I arrived there about 3 years ago, I was the 98th employee. So that gives you kind of the size, scale, and growth of the business. over the last 3 years or so. Every single person that is in the four walls of that business feels connected to this vision. Running the experience organization, I make sure of it that all of our managers, all of our leaders, all the people that report into our organization feels connected to it. And like I said, the vision is aspirational and unattainable. This right here is the strategy, though. So the strategy is the execution layer that sits underneath your vision. And this is a huge missing element, I think, in companies. And so I want to explain the spider graph for a second. The things that always stay constant on this graph, customer segments, value chain, channel, geographies, new business, those are constant along with your product piece. The things that are unique, and this is unique to Pluralsight, right, is our content and years of experience, because we're a content-driven business. Now, what's driving this strategy? And the things that are driving this strategy are real. The pink area is actually unit economics. And this is the way that it looks. The unit economics that sit down behind this is really driven by length of stay and likelihood to buy. Okay, so if you look at this chart here, Market A, and I'm just going to use our example, are developers, IT ops, and creatives. Just think of them that way. So if you look at the unit economics, you can see where people churn, and you can see people that are staying in our product. So we've built a product that has a great market fit, and it allows people to enjoy and love our experience because they stay with us for a long time. Look at this, 13 to 16 months. If we go to Market C, I'm just going to call those guys creatives for the point of the exercise, right? Their B2C and our B2B motion, right, is only 3 months and 9 months. So we're having to replace that revenue every single year. So when you're building a product experience and you're going to market with sales, customer success, and marketing, and then engineering's building that product, you want to make sure that those investments, right, are really centered on the people that love your product and that pay you the most amount of money and that want to stay the longest. Else you're going to constantly have to replace that revenue every single year. It also is very helpful in telling you what not to do, in addition to where you place your bets. So when I want to go place my 2018 bet, right, and then when I want to go place my 2020 bet, the reason why some of that previous graph was still blue is because we haven't had a year of road testing all of those bets that we made to see if the unit economics had worked out. Does that make sense? Great. This is the last piece around strategy. So if you're trying to build a business and grow revenue, I put in, fake data here. But just think about your company and then think about your core markets and think about who you want to be 4 or 5 years from now. And the reason why Market A and Market B, those are our core markets if you remember from unit economics. Market C, the reason why I put new total addressable market there is because I've already started to yield out or maximize the growth in those first two markets. So I'm not going to grow at 40% or 50% year over year there. What's going to happen is I have to go to a new one-step adjacency market to continue to grow the business, which might change your product, which might change your vision, which might change your strategy. Potentially. And I just want you to be really thoughtful of that. Okay, the next piece or secret ingredient I think is organizational design. Around organizational design, if Keynote really allowed me to do this well, all of our teams are cross-functional and they're co-located. And if I could, this PXT out here is called a product experience team. Development, engineering, product management, content, data science, data engineering, DevOps, they're completely autonomous with accountability and they can push to production. We're not in Agile, we're not in Scrum, we're not in sprints. We actually can push as much as we want to production. October of last year, 428 commits in 1 month. Our average is around 240, 260 commits. If I grabbed one of those PXTs off the page and snapped it down, it would wave. And the reason why is because those teams can change the vision and the strategy of the overall experience. They're talking to customers every week, 30 to 40 interviews per week. And so it's really informing the leadership team and it's really informing the overall experience on how we engage our customers. So I also want to talk to you about kind of this way of working. And I have a whole lot to say about this. I wished I didn't have just 20 minutes to talk about like language is a form of creating. But when you show up into work as a founder, when I was a first-time founder, you guys, I wasn't great. I always thought the product was about me. In fact, the thing I always say is I built a solution for me, not we. It's because I didn't allow my team to lead. I didn't allow the industry to tell me what had happened. I really had a catastrophic failure kind of coming out of the gates. We ended up having a very successful acquisition, but I just didn't build a product that made a lot of sense. And all I'm trying to say here is the words that come out of your mouth to your team and to the rest of the world really matter. Every single thing you say is creating. Last, not the last, but the second to last point on this is vision versus ideas. You know, as founders, we're great with vision casting, but the implementation of the ideas are owned by the team. Allow them to get into the customer and teach you what's really present and occurring for the customer base as it happens. And I've already pounded this home on cross-functional and co-located. This is really the mix, right, of our product experience teams. This is the composition. And hopefully you're just applying this to the organizational design that you currently have within your business. So the way that we work has a couple of ingredients. You know, if you work cross-functionally, you're co-located, you're talking to customers all the time, we have really high confidence. But people always ask me, like, well, how do you know how you're confident, or how confident should I be? And the thing that I want to say about that is, like, 80% confidence is okay. The last 20% of you getting product market fit right, like, look, it's going to happen in the marketplace. The thing that you want to try and avoid is in code. You don't want to make changes in code all of the time when you're in production, right? And you also want to limit the amount of bugs that you're going to put in that code, right? Everyone hates rollbacks. Customers hate terrible experiences. You know, to get really, really comfortable with how you release to the market. So KT velocity, or knowledge transfer. Again, a real big missing ingredient in building a business. So what happens is that because of the way that a lot of organizations are built, product management, user experience design, engineering, content data, they're all in silos. So they don't work cross-functionally, and they come out with really low confidence. And then they don't transfer any of that knowledge to the sales, marketing, customer success. If you're omni-channel, you launch things in commerce, you launch things to the public masses, and then it just tips over or fails. And you're kind of tracking an output, not an outcome. So at Pluralsight, what we do is we grab all of sales, all of marketing, right? And we bring them every Monday for an hour together. And this was the first version of this about 2.5 years ago. The second version, it grew. And this is what it looks like today. About 300 people every Monday get together in all of discovery, all of delivery. We don't have any fear, uncertainty, or doubt around like sales is going to sell futures. It's because they understand product development now. They understand iteration. They understand what it takes to ship something to production. And so the second that they sold a future and then it iterated 20 times, they knew not to sell it again. And then they had a lot of empathy for us. So like, look, I have this screen called outputs. Look, a lot of people talk about outputs being bad. I don't want to say that outputs are bad, but look, you have to ship things. If you don't ship things on continuously, it's going to be really tough for you to win in the marketplace with, you know, technology skill adoption, with startups nipping at your heels all the time, with innovation, with everything that's really facing you. It's pretty tough to always make sure that you're shipping an output. But the real issue here for me is like you're forgetting about the outcome. And the outcome, right, is an increase in engagement by 40% from a strong cohort of users with a high length of stay and a high likelihood to buy. So ship the output, but every single thing you ship should have a data layer behind it. Like we have Hadoop set up, it gets dropped into Tableau. We've already put all the metrics behind every single page, and we're measuring whether or not we're making an impact or not. And so I'm trying to say, like, outcomes could, you know, it's not a quarterly release cycle. Outcomes could take you years to find out if you're having a massive impact. So take the time to really, really digest if you're having a massive impact on those designs. So what does a healthy product heart look like? Hopefully you guys will see some nice symbolism here. Cross-functional, co-located autonomous teams. You've got great product market fit. You've got good knowledge transfer. You know, what does bad look like? I'm not one to put a label on things, but I am keynoting it here, so let's just go ahead and put a label on what I feel like a lot of companies are doing. It's still waterfall product development. I walk into companies, I had, roughly 400 customer visits last year. Like, vision is still tops down. I don't see any strategy. Customers aren't included. They have low confidence when they come out of production. People are still in silos, and it's not very effective. The one I like to post, kind of poke the most fun at here is people are saying they're implementing Agile. And it's just funny, like if you guys read the slide, Scrum, Fall, Agile, Sprints, I don't know. The way that it occurs for me is that, we wanted to attempt to implement Agile, but inside of Agile we took Scrum, and then we still wanted to have a bunch of hierarchy and control around it, and then we created Scrum Fall. And it's just bad. I don't know what to say. So the methodology that we use is called directed discovery within Pluralsight. This is what I feel like the DNA, really, really resembles inside of our organization. A lot of people get really finicky about what you want to call things. So they call it dual track development. They call it modern agile, whatever you want to call it. Dual track directed discovery agile, whatevs. I don't care. The point is that these are the ingredients that matter, right? And I'll show you what it looks like in practice. I put lean up here, and the only reason why I didn't want to make sure, I wanted to make sure lean wasn't safe. Because I still think lean is a tremendous practice. You have kind of Eric Ries's lean, you have, kind of Toyota Production Systems, Deming's lean, and I feel like we're still kind of in a little bit of a hybrid. I think the key element in lean for me is that prototype observation is absent. So I still get customer feedback, I still ship to production, but in the middle, all of those iterative steps that are really painful, I still needed to actually go talk to the customer and iterate the designs before I pushed them into production. So what does Pluralsight's 6-second strip look like? This is a great use case. This is 1 year. I'm showing you 15 experiences per quarter, and then I'll give you the 1-year strip here. But we were a monolithic web application. And we broke that into 16 bounded contexts, and we had massive, massive releases. About 15 experiences per quarter, like I said, native iOS, Android, desktop, Roku, Chromecast, offline viewing, the entire unified user experience all the way from the ground up. When you really bring the customer and you create cross-functional co-located teams, you map people to vision and strategy, you transfer the knowledge to the rest of the organization, it's awesome. Now, a lot of people say, hey, Nate, this looks like a bunch of outputs. Well, we really cared about adding value. So the way that I want you to think about this, or try this shirt on for a minute, is the way that usage, billings, and happiness works. Happiness is net promoter score, is kind of headlights, taillights, and happiness. Headlights is usage. So when I built something, do people start to use it? And then what did we do, and how did it affect the user base? Right? The billings is billings starting to go up year over year over the last 5 years. That's kind of taillights, like what we shipped, they used, and they liked, they came back and bought again. And then, did we actually make the customer really happy? Make sense? Great. Man, I wish we had time for Q&A. I've written a lot about this, so feel free to dive into any of the blog posts. I've also written a book called Product Leadership, so feel free to dive into that. And that's really it. Thank you so much for your time.